You know what I hate, folks? I don't hate it. You know what I don't like in most narratives? I'm not fond of time travel. It's a really fun concept, uh, but it also comes with all sorts of weird sorts of story. Uh, there are lots of weird situations that come with the idea that that time travel or alternate realities or affected realities and all that stuff, how all that ends up playing out. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about in today's kind of ranty video about these certain quest lines that are going to appear in patch 10.1.5 if they in fact appear. These are very controversial sorts of topics that I'm going to cover, to the point where I'm not even going to entirely say what they are, because YouTube is going to do some weird stuff if I talk about it in depth. So I'm going to focus on the idea of time travel and kind of how the Bronze Dragonflight have their own sort of prime directive. They have a mission to make sure that things turn out the way that they're supposed to. And we've seen these sorts of narrative kinds of things happen in all sorts of places. Like the most current Spider-Man movie has this entire society of, well, I'm not going to spoil too much. It has this whole thing where they try to make things work out a certain way. The Bronze Dragonflight has this whole thing. And other Marvel stuff, the TVA from the Loki series, and I guess what we're seeing in this current phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they have this whole thing on, hey, realities and time are supposed to work out a certain way. In the context of video games specific to the World of Warcraft, very specific to what's happening in 10.1.5, we're being asked to be an agent of those timelines, to an agent of the Bronze Dragonflight, to make sure that things happen the way that they're supposed to. And what we're getting a glimpse to the very murky and dark reality that the Bronze Dragonflight faces in order to make, I guess, the best timeline happen, I suppose. And so folks are most definitely going to have strong reactions to these. Definitely on paper, and as you can see from this quest here, this one is asking us to make sure that somebody dies according to what happened in the Warcraft universe. And in fact, we've seen this happen before. We've seen this happen before with the Caverns of Time quest lines that had happened, the dungeons that had happened as early as the Burning Crusade expansion, where we were told, hey, we need to make sure that things happen the way that they're supposed to, because the Infinite Dragonflight is pulling some shenanigans. We need to make sure that the culling of Stratholme happens. We need to make sure that Arthas Menethil goes down his dark path and slaughters an entire town, and we need to help him enable that. Or we need to kind of be in the background to make sure that things that try to interfere with that happen. And so, in a weird way, we are complicit to one of the great atrocities that had happened around the time of the so-called Third War in the Warcraft series. And so we're being asked to do that again. In this case, and so what I want to do, I want to kind of lay everything out so that way you can decide whether you think this is like the worst thing ever, or if this is just a video game. I'm not, my feelings are very mixed on this. I'm just going to lay it out, let people have a conversation over in the comments, and leave it at that. So in this case, we're being asked to make sure that someone is killed, because it's necessary for the best timeline, I suppose. And probably the one that is really getting people's attention right now in social media and Twitter and whatnot is this one here, where we're being asked to help play out, to make sure that the events that happened to Alexstrasza during the second war between the orcs and the humans, to make sure that that happens. Now, as you know, during Warcraft 2, really cool things were able to happen. We're able to get these dragon units and these griffin units. There were flying units in that game, and that was awesome. But what's the story behind that? Well, Alexstrasza was being forced to birth, these dragons. They had to come from somewhere, and supposedly from connecting all the dots, these dragons came from her. They're her babies, and they wreaked havoc. Blah blah blah. But Obviously Alexstrasza had to birth these dragons somehow, and so that sort of connection has been made. What we're being asked to do in this quest is to help connect that and to help make sure that it happens. A lot of folks on social media are reacting very, very strongly to this. They don't want to feel complicit in such an act, and so they want this questline removed. I don't blame anyone for asking something like that, but I also get that, the reason why they made this in the first place, the sort of questline in the first place, is to really send it home that the Bronze Dragonflight, they do some really serious stuff. They make things happen. If you really think about it, what we've experienced throughout the Warcraft timeline, whether it's Warcraft or World of Warcraft, the Bronze Dragonflight might have taken actions to make sure that those things happen because, again, the best timeline. This is the most ideal thing that had happened, despite an obvious wrongdoing that had happened. Some folks are saying that it's very awkward that someone like Chromie, who is considered as a transsexual or a trans-special thing because, she's a dragon and all that, that it's weird that she does this thing to enable what is happening to Alexstrasza. But it also kind of tells me that as an agent of time, and as we've seen in other instances where you have these TVA-like Bronze Dragonflight things that are trying to make sure that the best thing, that the most ideal outcomes happen, that oftentimes these agents are really jaded. They're very like, oh yeah, I'm used to this. Oh yeah, I've seen you die a whole number of times. I've seen the worst that can happen. And that's kind of what I get from this sort of, that's what I get from Chromie offering these sorts of quest lines. It's also important to point out that this particular quest line and all the others that I believe are similar to it are dailies. These are dailies that connect you to getting, I think, some reputation that will eventually get you, I don't know what. Maybe we'll find out in this build that had just come out today. I'm just not sure yet. But you also get an item that will help you get rewards from the upcoming time rifts that are going to happen. But largely, what you get are cosmetic rewards from this. These are dailies that you can skip. And so if you want to act out the role play of what's happening here, you can simply not do these quests either. So some very dark quest lines that are coming. It's considered daily content. It's optional content. There are things that you can skip. You can bypass these. And as for the themes itself, for me at least, they seem very in line with what sorts of things that these timey-wimey people have to deal with on the regular, and we've seen it in quite a few narrative spaces. But I totally understand if people are like, nope, hate it, don't want. It's not even a matter of I won't do it, I just don't want it in there. I get it. So at this point, I think I've said my piece. I'm just gonna want to listen now in the comments. Let me know what you think of what's going on here. And off I go. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.